This is insider buys and sells for that stock, for that company. And we can see here the CEO, CFO, and directors were buying during that time. Hi everyone, JJ here with The Art of Value. Welcome. Well, today I'm going to look at super investor Li Lu's current portfolio. He doesn't have a lot of stocks, but we're going to get into it, and especially one stock that he's bought reasonably recently. I'm going to look more in depth at that company, that stock. So let's get into it. Now, this is Li Lu's current portfolio, Himalaya Capital Management. He runs that, and you can see there that there's less than 10 stocks in there, which is quite normal for value investors. He is a value investor, and we can see here in this past quarter, there's really no movement, but we can have a look at the portfolio. We can see there that 27.76% is the biggest holding, which is a huge percentage, Postal Savings Bank of China. And we're going to have a look through these, and I'm going to focus on West Bancorp today. We're going to look into that stock. He has had movement in that in previous quarters recently, so we'll have a look at what that is, why he might have bought it today. But going through the others, Bank of America is 21.36% of the portfolio. Again, big. Alphabet, but the two classes of Alphabet stock, Google there, 15% and 12%. So that's a big chunk of the portfolio too. Berkshire Hathaway is 11.23%. And there we have West Bancorp at 7% of the portfolio. So we're going to have a look at that one today. And Apple rounds it out at 5.13%. Now, if we have a look at Dataroma here, we can see the activity for Li Lu's portfolio, or the US stocks anyway, over the past few quarters. And we can see the last movement was actually Q2 2023. And West Bancorp, he added 20.91%. And Q1 2023 was the bulk of that. He bought West Bancorp, and he bought some of Bank of America as well. He added to that. But West Bancorp is this regional bank that he added to. Is it a good company, and why did he buy it? Let's get into that. And here we can see on Ticker Terminal, this is West Bancorp stock. So we can see over the past 10 years, it's had a 92.7% rise. And that's a 6.8% CAGR over that time. So not so impressive. Would have to think that Li Lu here is looking at buying at the right time, not timing the market, but just buying when the stock, he thinks it's undervalued. And of course, you know, in the past year or so, we've had some downturn in regional bank stocks. Let's go back 5 years. It's 38.3% over 5 years, 6.8% CAGR again. Over the last 3 years, it's actually lost at 3% down. Over 1 year, 5% down. And over year to date, it hasn't done so well. And so the lowest point in the last 3 years was in early May 2023. Let's remind ourselves here that Q1 and Q2 2023. This was during Q1 2023. We can see that big drop off there. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is when he got interested and started buying here. And then in Q2, of course, that we're going into Q2. So these prices were down into the 40s and 50s here. So we'd have to assume that he was buying because he's an experienced investor, an expert investor, that he took his opportunity there as a value investor to buy down in those depths at that time. And he really hasn't touched it since then. So he thought, obviously, that was a good price. We can assume this is insider buys and sells for that stock, for that company. And we can see here, look at these buys. We can see that the insiders were buying. And if we take particular interest in these prices here, it was actually in the 40s. That highest one, $49.50, and then right down. And so insiders, that they were management. We can see the CEO, CFO, and directors were buying during that time, and Li Lu buying during that time as well. So a lot of insiders and expert investors buying at that time, and it's sort of stopped there. But basically in the 40s, they were buying in the 40s. And as I record this, the stock is in the low 70s today, 72. So it's had a rise since then. Insiders taking the opportunity to buy when it dropped low in that regional banking mini crisis when some banks did go under, Silicon Valley Bank. Now, if you're getting value out of this episode so far and you think that I'm earning it, please remember to hit that like button to help the algorithms to spread it to more people. Thanks. Okay, so let's get into what this bank is, what it does. We can see about the company here. West Bancorp operates the bank holding company for West Bank that provides a range of personal and commercial banking services to businesses and individuals in the United States and Greater China. So that's an important point. United States and China, which isn't the case with a lot of banks. It operates through 3 segments: consumer and business banking, commercial banking, and other. And we can see here that it has 120 locations in the United States and Greater China, full service branches in Hong Kong, Shanghai, a number of cities there in China, headquartered in Pasadena, California, so that's Los Angeles, headquartered in Los Angeles, operations in China and the US. And Li Lu knows both of those countries really well. He grew up in China and famously was a refugee into the United States, went to Columbia Business School, did extremely well at Columbia Business School, went to see a Warren Buffett lecture while he was there and was immediately taken with that and studied Warren Buffett. And he got to know Charlie Munger later on and ended up investing for Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger has said great things about Li Lu, how he was the only investor that he would trust his money with, and he did. And so this is what Li Lu's doing. He knows China, he knows the US, and he's invested in this bank that has its foot in both countries, in both economies. And now this is more about the bank. This is from one of their own presentations on the investor section of their website, East West at a glance. We can see that it's about a $10 billion market cap or thereabouts, $70 billion in assets, 56 billion deposits, and 19.4% ROTCE, which is return on tangible common equity. We'll have a look at that later, but that's a good number. It's 19.4. It has been higher than that. It's a bit of averages over 20, but we'll have a look at that. That's pretty good for a bank. And headquartered in Pasadena, California, we can see the branches here. 4 branches in Asia to support cross-border trade. As we can see, importantly, operates both in the US and China. Founded in 1973, so it's over 50 years in operation, so it's not a new bank. 25 years on the NASDAQ. Roots in the US, Asian American immigrant community, that's important there. Expanded to connect businesses between the US and Asia. And of course, Li Lu is in that community. It wouldn't surprise me if he uses this bank as part of research and award-winning company. It's won awards for, top performing bank and so forth. Quite a few branches in the US. Not a huge bank though, but still, as far as regional banks go, we've had this regional banking crisis, again this year in 2024. We've had sort of inklings of trouble, but about a year ago we had this mini crisis with regional banks. People got very worried, and so the price of banking stock went way down. But this is quite a solid bank, as we'll see from the numbers. So Li Lu taking his opportunity there to buy at that time. This is from a previous presentation last year. We can see here highlights of the second quarter 2023. So that was like deep in this crisis. So they put out their numbers here, put out these graphs to show that they were solid. We can see return on average assets there. It was 1.66 in Q2 2022. Q1 2023 it was 2 and 1.85. If you don't know about analyzing banks, let me tell you that these are pretty good numbers, return on average assets. If you looked at other banks in the United States or anywhere, these compare very well. And we also have return on average tangible common equity. As we saw before from that presentation, it was in the 19, but we have here 19.9, 22.9, 21. This is also very good. So averaged out, they're doing very well. And return on average common equity, these are also good numbers. So now we turn to GuruFocus to look at some of these metrics for the bank. There we can see that the market cap is around that 10.1 billion at the moment, enterprise value of 10.2. And if we look at the metrics that Li Lu might have been interested in for this bank, if you've been following me lately, you'll be seeing other companies that I've looked at through GuruFocus here, and green is good. Green is good, and we can see net margin here 45, FCF margin 51, ROE, return on equity there nearly 18, ROA as we saw 1.72, which consistently they've been getting. So these are very good numbers. So years of profitability, it's performed well over 10 years. PE ratio currently 8.85, which isn't hugely high, and GuruFocus here says that it's got a value of 96.7, and of course that price is 72 at the moment. When Li Lu bought it, it was probably down in the low 50s, if not lower than that. And of course, he took advantage, and we saw those insiders buying in the 40s. So Lilu's already done pretty well out of this, and we can see that it's giving it a 5-star ranking in terms of the quality, the value of it creeping up there compared to how it was. GuruFocus here is saying that it's undervalued, which you take that with a grain of salt. You've got to do your own work on it. If we go deeper into the financials here, we can see that the revenue growth rate, 10-year revenue growth rate is 9.7, 5-year it's 9.8. You can see the history of some of those metrics there. If we look at the ROA, return on assets, we can see that it's been going up consistently, high for a bank, but going up. So recently in 2022, 1.8, 1.5, and 1.74 for the December 2023. Return on tangible equity there, we can see 19, 19, 20, 17, 12, 15. So it's been consistently pretty good there too over the long term. And net margin, we can see 45, consistently good going back. In fact, getting better over the years and getting better recently. So an improving performance. You can see all of these numbers here are pretty impressive for a bank. So I can see why that Lilu might have been interested in this bank. Now, very recently on the Art of Value Patreon, I've posted my current stock portfolio and recent changes and some commentary on the portfolio. Over there, I also post exclusive content that I don't post anywhere else but there. So again, I'll put the link in the description if you want to check that out, and see you over there. Okay, this segment's just for Patreon, and as you know, as I put my stock portfolio positions on just recently, you know that Now, this is the 6th in a recent series of super investor portfolio videos that I've made. I'm going to put a link here if you're on YouTube to that playlist, and in the description for those watching or listening elsewhere. So check some of those out if you haven't already. And thanks to everybody for watching or listening to this one, and I'll see you in the next one.